Let me first of all give my very hearty congratulations to the Institute, my institute. I joined the Institute in 1995, yes, before many of you were born. And so, and I have been there since, sometimes very active, sometimes taking an observatory role, and sometimes simply being a facilitator. So thank you for the branding. When I received, I didn't know you were branding. I can't see of course the CEO is aware, I can't see the chairman. He told me that he was going to train the auditors just next door, at the hotel next door. So Karanja, I didn't know you were branding until you sent me the slides. And I said, wow, what happened to the Institute? Then soon thereafter, I received an email from your CEO to tell me the very good things that you've done. So thank you so much for that rebranding. And let us sweat the new brand. My challenge to you is that we should now sweat the new brand. In banking, we say sweat the asset. Squeeze it until it brings out some life to you. A wonderful name, so congratulations to the many things that you're doing. For those of us who don't know, I really am. The Institute is also a very special friend of mine, especially where I work at the IFC. We partnered with the Institute around 3 years ago, and what we are going to discuss today is as a result of the partnership. What is going on next door is a result of the partnership with the IFC, and so I'm so grateful that we are making great strides in terms of corporate governance in this region. So it was my very great pleasure to accept to come and share a few perspectives on the value addition or the value proposition on corporate governance. Thank you, Dr. Caesar, and thank you, in absentia, Justice Richard, for the presentations that they've made today. After they finished, I actually thought that I felt like they'd covered everything for the day, but let me just add a little part, and I'm going to be a little bit biased towards the companies. How many of us here work for companies? Let me just see by show of hands. Companies, limited liability companies, whether as a client or you're employed. Yeah? So the presentation is primarily for you, but I will also tilt it towards any other organization. My value proposition on corporate governance is that corporate governance is important for everyone. Firstly, at the individual level, what do you do with yourself? How do you govern yourself? What kind of decisions do you make? How much can you be relied upon? Secondly, of course, then to organizations. But organizations always are driven by people. They don't exist in isolation. They are driven by people. And so corporate governance, whether you work for government, whether you work for the NGO, whether you work for a company, it is important for you. And if we would all practice good corporate governance, we would obviously have a very good life. So today, by God's grace, in the morning when Justice Mwongo was presenting, I felt like I should keep on saying amen, amen. He sounded like my pastor at church, referred to the Bible, referred to ethics, referred to the spiritual part of life. And so at the end, I hope that we will learn what value proposition corporate governance has, and then also what a governance assessment is, and then what is a value proposition. Let me start by giving you a dictionary definition of value proposition. Value proposition is a statement or an aspiration or a promise that clearly identifies what advantages one can receive by using or purchasing a particular product or service. And let's see a few examples. For you to have good value proposition, if you are marketing a product, and today our product is corporate or governance assessment, we have to make an element or a sentence that makes sense to people. that convinces somebody why should you use a particular product. A value proposition is the most important element in a marketing statement. If we are going to market governance assessment to anybody, boards of directors, constitutional bodies, even to ourselves, the marketing statement, whatever we are going to tell them is the value, is most important. It tells the proposition prospects and why they should do business with you. Why should somebody engage you to do a governance assessment? And finally, whatever our product will be, and in this case, it's governance assessment, it must clearly state what advantages somebody is going to accrue by using our services. Let's begin with Uber. What is the value proposition of Uber? Please don't read. In fact, maybe I should not have shown it to you. What's the value proposition of Uber? Anybody? Let's see by a show of hands, and please shout out so your food can digest in the stomach. What's the value proposition of Uber? How many of us have Ubered? Or your children have Ubered? What's the value proposition? What do they promise you? All right, can I see by showing a hand and then you shout? And Karanja, somebody can help us with the... I'm going to involve us quite a bit because we have just eaten. If we don't talk, you will, what did you call it? You will be saying intercessory prayers. And for sure, we said enough prayers before lunch. We don't need them for now. All right, give that lady right there at the center and her sister next.
Efficiency and effectiveness.
Uber promises you efficiency and effectiveness. Next, what does it promise you? Tap the button and you will get a ride. This side, over there is a hand over there.
Cheap service.
Cheap service.
Affordable.
Yes, affordable. It's actually called cost-effective service. In other words, what it costs you, it's effective, it's okay. That's what it sells to you. So that is their value proposition. Internationally, it's called tap the app and get a ride. You simply tap and get a ride. That is the value proposition. One tap and a car comes to you directly. If you tap, the car comes. Secondly, your driver knows exactly where you are going. Especially in the US, the Uber drivers, they are trained. We don't have the same quality of service here, but the driver knows where you're going. They've got the GPS map, which is mapped very properly. I've tried to use GPS here in Kenya. The other day I was going to visit a friend of mine in Parklands, and they told me to turn, and if I had turned, I would have been arrested by a policeman if there was one. That's the one here. But in the US, your driver knows exactly. You give the address, and the driver will take you right there. That is the value proposition of Uber. Payment is completely cashless. We are in a world where technology is working. Payment is completely cashless. And that is the value proposition of Uber. Let's look at another one before we come to the value proposition of corporate governance or governance assessment. Apple. Apple is a phone like any other. Let me see how many apples we have here. Anybody with an apple? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Many apples. Let's see how many Samsungs, including me, and many others. Let's see how many Nokias. Nokia. 1. That tells you a lot. Now, so Apple, as a company, knows very well like that an iPhone is an iPhone. Any iPhone is an iPhone. And so in marketing their property, marketing their company, marketing their phone, they actually promise you an experience. It's not just a phone. It's an experience. That is their value proposition. Let's just read there. This is what they say, whatever is in blue. That every iPhone we've made, and we mean every single one, was built on the same belief that a phone should be more than a collection of features. That above all, a phone should be absolutely simple, beautiful, and magical to use. Tell that to my 2 sons, magical to use. And actually they confuse me. They take my phone and they show me so many things that I have no idea exist in that phone. The other day, I apparently changed. A friend of mine took a picture of their foot. She was in hospital, so took a picture and sent a group of us the picture of the foot. In looking at it, I don't know what happened, but it all of a sudden became my status on my phone. First of all, I didn't know there was status on the phone. I'm sorry, I am not technology savvy. I didn't know there was anything called status until I started receiving calls. So Rose, what has happened to your foot? Oh dear, so where are you? I said, which foot? My feet are here and they're okay. They're like, no, but the foot you have put on your phone, it looks like you had surgery or something. I said, which surgery? I was so confused and it was early in the morning. So the friend had sent the pictures at night and I looked at them before I slept. I quickly ran to my daughter's room and I said, Mommy, people are calling me everywhere. They're telling me my foot is rotten. I don't know what's happening. They're saying I'm showing it on my phone. My feet are here. I was so confused early in the morning. She told me, Mom, just bring that phone out of her sleep. So she took it. Okay, it's now fine. I said, really? So what did you do? Mommy, I changed your status. Honestly, I said, what? I mean, how come I don't know all this? And in a touch of a button with one eye. And she got me there. And that is the magic that Apple is promising people they will have in using their phone. And true, there's a lot of magic. The photos, the way of communication, whatever there is over there. It's a lot of magic. And that's why people spend so much money in buying those phones. Let's look at another company coming back home here. Microphone, where are you? Thank you. Be alert. I like involving everyone when it's an interaction between all of us. So, how many of us here in Safaricom, hakuna mtu what were we calling it again? Resist. Kuna mtu resist hapa? Pole, kama resist, you will tell us where you are and how it's working for you. So, what does Safaricom promise you in their value proposition? Anybody? What does it promise you? So you are using it. Why are you using Safaricom, in other words? What does it promise you? Please. Over there. Please move quickly. Our facilitator, you are co-facilitating with me, so you have to move at my speed.
I'm saying it's the best and the better option.
The best and better option. So they are telling you there are many options in the market. You can communicate however you want. You can communicate through the landline. I was born in landline and those kiosks. I remember queuing at my school in Alliance and trying to call my parents. And if you didn't queue in time and time was over, you did not call on that day. Yeah? Those of us who are my age. So you queued and you put your coins. And sometimes the coins were swallowed and you did not actually connect. So you have that option. We have that option. We have the option of landlines in the office, don't we? And you can choose to call. And I have a friend who has never owned a mobile phone in this Kenya today. He does not own a mobile phone, and he's okay. And I envy him because sometimes the mobile phone spoils my life. It follows me everywhere. My employers want me to work 24/7. And so what Safaricom promises us, as she has said, is a better option. You have to choose, but mine is the better, the best. That is a value proposition. What else does it promise you from just that logo? Safaricom has got billions of logos, but what does it promise you? What's the value proposition there? Twaweza. Twaweza, for my brother he understands Kiswahili. No. Twaweza means we are able to deliver. We will deliver for you and to you whatever you want in this world. So that's what they are telling you. Nakumat, before it went down, had a value proposition. It was what? Please keep. We want it. You want it. We've got it. And you need it. Okay. Which one was it? You need it. We got it. It meant whatever you wanted. If you needed whatever you needed, Nakumat had it. And for sure, at its heyday, it was a good experience shopping at Nakumat. I remember when the Westgate branch came on, it was a beautiful experience. I live somewhere near there, and most Sundays my children would disappear from the house, and I've cooked lunch and I'm looking for them, and I'm told they are mauling. They went mauling. I was like, you people, until the attack happened, they used to go there every day of their lives, to go and maul and look around at the Westgate Mall and at Nakumat, etc. That's Safaricom. We will do one or two more and then we move on to corporate governance. Coca-Cola. What does Coca-Cola promise you? I know maybe many of us here don't drink it, but there are people who are very excited to drink Coca-Cola. There are people, especially some people who are residents or in my house. What does it promise you? It promises you a refreshing drink. It promises networking, socializing. Do you see the posters? You feel like you almost would want to be that person in that picture, isn't it? It promises you your self-image. Like if you're drinking Coca-Cola, you are with it. For a young person, it's very enticing. Why? Because they use enticing pictures. Their value proposition is of image. Culture, it's our culture. Great people, people who love fun, people who go out, people who are with it, they drink Coca-Cola. Personality, they tell you, you actually are the person. Quench your thirst. Socialize. Be good. You are with it if you drink Coca-Cola. Relationships. If you drink Coca-Cola, you can socialize. You can go anywhere. You are with the crowd. You're good. That is the value proposition of Coca-Cola. I will do one more here in Kenya because I mentioned it. Actually, I added it just as I was sitting here because I realized we had a longer time. According to the program, we were going to share with Dr. Caesar, but now I have the entire afternoon. So I added equity because we spoke about the Equity Foundation and the networking and the way they do their business. What does equity proposition to you? What's the proposition on equity, the value add? What do they promise people? Yes. My microphone should come right here to, yes. Yes. That one is not on, yes.
Okay, they are accessible, they are everywhere.
Accessibility.
Yes.
So they tell you, we are everywhere. You need a bank? Are you in Lokichogyo? Are you in Kisumu? Are you in Nakuru? Are you in Kisii? Are you in Mombasa? We are everywhere. That's the value proposition. What else does equity promise you? Even just from their tagline. Another person? I can see over there. Please give a hand to CS.
I think they promise access.
Mm-hmm.
They will listen to me and adjust themselves to be able to fit with the need that I present. So it's not something that you have access to because you have certain amounts of money. They really want to meet you at the point of need.
They want to meet you at your point of need. They will listen to you. That's the value proposition. They will listen to you. They care about you. You almost feel like they are very sad when you don't have money. Yeah? Every time I hear the CEO speaking and Mary Wangari accompanying, she was my classmate, accompanying him and making statements, I almost feel like it's a crime not to have money. And yet equity is there. That is their value proposition. The listening caring bank. Who does not want to be listened to in this world? Who does not want to know that there is somebody who is caring about me? That's a very clever value proposition. And for those of us who watched equity come up, equity list, equity grow, equity expand, we can only see that they cleverly have gotten into the market. So, I'm sorry the colors are not, it's not very clear, but I am hoping that you will see, but I'm going to read it in your hearing. Now we are moving to governance value proposition. Why should anybody care about good governance? Why should organizations care about good governance? Why should CEOs? Why should company secretaries? Why should professionals like yourselves, company secretaries, accountants, why should anybody give a hoot about corporate governance? I'll start by reading this very special quote. I like reading this quote in governance, and it says, if management is about running a business, whatever business it be, then governance is about seeing that that business is run properly. Two aspects right over there. If management is about running a company or a business, an organization, a judiciary, then governance is about ensuring that that running of that business is done properly. So, for the next few minutes, and I promise I will not take so much of your time, we are going to look at what you get. What is the value add? What is the value proposition for governance? How many of us here are governance auditors? Please raise your hands high so I see how to proposition quite a number. Excellent. How many of us here are company secretaries? As in your work day to day is a company secretary. All right. Also a good number. How many of us here are board members? Members of any board, a school, a company, your own, Mr. and Mrs. Limited? Good. I think nearly everybody lifted their hands. Which one? Other. Sasa huu ni uchokozi. He's asking me to ask that how many of you are others? Surely that person had so much lunch and they ate from the other part of the food. Now, on a serious note, when a board or an organization asks you to do a governance assessment, and we are going to see what's a governance assessment of their organization, what they want you to focus on is how that assessment can improve their processes, can improve their systems, and ultimately their output. So for you to be a good governance assessor and proposition and give a value proposition on the value of good governance, you have to clearly know the industry. Those of us who want to consult and be good consultants, you have to clearly know the industry, number one. You have to know the operating laws. Under which law does Equity Bank operate? A quick check will tell you it's a bank, so Banking Act and regulations. It will tell you it's a listed company. A quick check, CMA or capital market laws, regulations. It will tell you it employs, so employment law. It will tell you all those other laws that equity, it pays tax, so you have to check how their tax payment is. It will tell you so many things. And then you have to know clearly what the corporate governance assessment processes are. What do you do if you are going to assess? What proposition do you give to your client? And of course, you have to be excellent in report writing. Now, corporate governance assessment or corporate governance or good corporate governance is a relationship between majorly three types of people. At the top are the owners or the sponsors of the organization. If it is a government organization, of course the person at the top, the sponsor, is government. If it's a limited liability company, at the top, the sponsor is the owners, the shareholders, the people who have made the investment, who then appoint agents, be they board of trustees, be they board members, whatever agency that comes just after the owners, who then run the organization. And because those of us who are lawyers, we know the history of the company law, how the company came to be in the 17th century. How at the beginning, the owners of businesses or entrepreneurs came up with businesses. And the businesses outgrew them. And all of a sudden, they decided to get a group of friends to advise them on marketing, on packaging, on development of products. And that group of friends became known as a board member. Soon thereafter, there came the introduction of a limited liability company. Those friends that supported the owner, what was their liability? It was to be limited to, and we all know about limited liabilities. Then, of course, that board then appoints management to run the organization on a day-to-day basis. Now, there is created right there a relationship. Management to the board, board to management, board to the owners or to the sponsors of an organization. And when you're doing a corporate governance assessment, this is the relationship that you assess. Of course, there are other people, they are now stakeholders, there is government, there are people who are interested in the company, but this is majorly the area that you assess when you're doing a governance assessment. So, what is a governance assessment before we value proposition it? You can see from the picture, and I intentionally put it there, that a governance assessment is like a living being going to the doctor and saying, hey, Mr. Doctor, I have come so that you can look at me from head to toe. Number one, tell me the areas I am doing well. Those I will love to hear. Then tell me the areas I am not doing well. In the third quarter, tell me the areas I most absolutely need to take action now. Then the report comes out, and that is a report of an assessment. It's just the same for a company. But in the company, what do we look at? We first look at an organization's commitment to good governance. How committed is that organization to do good? How do we measure that? We'll be discussing that briefly. We look at the practices of the leadership at the top, the board practices. What does the board do in running that organization from day to day? How do they do it? What are the time frames? So you assess the board practices. And then, of course, you ask yourself, this board appointed to run this organization only comes to the company once a quarter. And yet, it is their responsibility to ensure that the company is run well. So, what control mechanisms do they have in place to ensure that management is running the company well? And that's what we call the control environment. Ultimately, we all know that board members are responsible for the running of the organization. And once anything goes wrong, who is normally sanctioned? Who's sanctioned? The board, the people at the top. Do we know of any examples where in our nation the board has been sanctioned? Anybody would like to just list them, shout them? And we are about to do an exercise because I can see many people are beginning to do intercessory prayers. So, any board you know that has been sanctioned? You read papers, you listen to news, yes? National Bank, there? CMC, National Bank, any other? Uchumi, any other? Yeah? Chase Bank, Imperial Bank, all in all those organizations, the board members are the ones that were sanctioned. Then, of course, we look at disclosure and transparency. How does the organization do its disclosure? How does it tell people what it's doing, its strategic plan, its performance, etc.? And then shareholder or stakeholder rights treatment. How are the shareholders, the people that provide capital to the company, how are they treated? So when you're measuring or assessing the governance of a company or a state corporation or an organization, you actually start at the top and look at the processes and systems that they have at the top. Now, before I go to value proposition, please let's stand up because I can see too many prayers. Right, so I wriggle my hand like this. I wriggle my hand like this. I wriggle my hand like this. When I am in white sands. Again. Okay, go to the other one. I wriggle my hand like this. I wriggle my hand like this. I wriggle my hand like this. When I am in white sands. Okay, let's now wriggle the body. Wake up that body, okay? I don't know how to wriggle the body, but let's wriggle it. I wriggle my body like this. I wriggle my body like this. I wriggle my body like this. When I am in white sands. All right, let's sit down so we can go on. Okay. What is the value proposition for corporate governance or governance assessment? Why should anybody conduct a governance assessment? I said before that when you're doing a governance assessment, first of all, you look at the laws, the regulations, and the rules that govern that organization and measure whether they are, the board or the leaders in that organization is complying. If it's not complying, you raise those issues and say you are not complying with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 laws in your recommendations. And then, of course, you look at their internal codes. What codes do they have? Do they have a code of ethics? Do they have a code? If they don't have one, you should tell them that for you to have good corporate governance, you need a code of ethics. You look at the articles of association of a company and measure what they're doing vis-a-vis or as against what the company has in its articles and memorandum of association and make appropriate recommendations. Are they too old? The articles of association, do they need to be revived or revised? Is the company complying with, or is it acting ultra-vires? You look at the board. You look at the board or the trustees or the commission, whatever body is at the apex of the organization, and look at its various practices. How do they make their decisions? We spoke about sitting allowance, I think, in the morning. We spoke about procurement. We spoke about all those issues that Justice Mwongo raised. You look at the code of ethics and policies and procedures of the organization. So the first value proposition is that it evaluates a company's corporate governance system and identifies areas of reform or of enhancement or on focus. What's being done right? What's being done wrong? So a governance assessment then brings out those issues. And as an assessor, the assessors are being trained next door, the assessor then brings out. And for those of us who lifted up our hands as assessors, you then bring out those issues in a most professional manner and recommend that the organization should focus on those areas and ensure that they are taken up and amended, enhanced, or there's proper focus on it. A governance assessment, secondly, raises or enhances the understanding of leading corporate governance practices. I think 2 slides before I said you have to understand the industry in which a company or an organization is operating in for you to do a proper assessment. If it's the banking industry, you have to understand banking. You have to read and find out what is the trend right now in banking, in terms of industry practice, in terms of corporate governance. So when you're doing your assessment, you're making recommendations that make sense to the organization that has actually called you and asked you to do an assessment. So a company will gain a better understanding of leading governance practices, identify actions to maximize performance, because all companies are really about performance and performing well, and to help become recognized as a market leader. Everybody wants to lead. So any company that cares about its leadership, about its performance, will actually do a governance assessment. In corporate governance, we say whatever doesn't get measured or assessed never gets done. Because you don't know. Remember the presentation by Dr. Caesar in the morning? There are those areas that we don't know that we don't know. Yeah? So an assessment by somebody, a professional, will then bring out those areas and tell you, hey, you are not complying with 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you know that now I know I am not complying, and then you proceed to rectify those areas. There is empirical evidence globally on the importance of corporate governance or governance assessment, being the leadership processes being assessed and recommendations being made. I've checked a McKinsey survey which said that investors world over are willing to pay up to a 25% premium for well-governed companies. So what's the value proposition? If you assess yourself as a company, if you assess your governance as a company and perform well, you get a premium of 25% attraction. People want to give you money, people want to buy your products, people want to associate with you. You attract the best talent in the market. People want to come and work with you. And I can tell you from where I stand, because I know a few of the companies that have done governance assessments, they actually attract top-notch, the best labor that we have in the market. And the other one is that a governance assessment, the other value proposition, is that it explores leading governance practices and how those might apply to an organization. And then it uses an interactive approach to try and identify practical improvement opportunities for an organization over the short, medium, and long term. Said in another way, is that once you do a governance assessment, the issues are graded. The red hot, the amber, and the green. Green is where you are doing well. You don't need to do anything about those areas. The amber ones are where you could be doing well, but you need improvement. The red ones is where you must act now in the short term. For instance, it's a requirement under the listing regulations here for all companies to have an audit committee. If you assess a company or an organization and find that they are listed, but they do not have an audit committee, your recommendation as an assessor is to say, hey, you don't have an audit committee. This is a requirement under the law. You ought to have done it yesterday, but now it is blinking red. So do it today, in the short term. You have to do it right away. So that's another value proposition for governance assessment, that if you assess, you get to know those areas you are not doing well and pay focus on them and actually grade your risk and ensure that you then do it or reform. It also enhances a company performance operationally and financially. When you do a governance assessment, if you pay good attention to it, if you are specific to it, and I will be showing you examples on companies that we have worked with and which have done well, it means that if you pay attention to it, you will definitely, if you do the good thing, you will definitely improve. There are no two ways about it. Shortcutting, and we spoke about it, the moral part of it with Justice Mwongo in the morning and also with Dr. Caesar earlier in the day. Shortcuts don't make sense to anyone. You shortcut, but one bright morning, they will catch up with you. Push will come to shove, and they will catch up with you. Let's talk about the case of Imperial Bank. I know it's in court, and we will not go to the court part. But what did they do for a long time? What did they do? Anybody? What did they do? For a long time. What results did they give? Please give CS Beatrice there. So let's talk about it.
Okay, they pretended that things were okay, and they gave an impression that all was well, and the results were not genuine.
Okay, number one, they pretended for a long time that things were okay. What does okay mean? What results did they give? Positive results. Give him the microphone, but just a minute. They gave us positive results year after year. They posted what? A profit. It was profitable. Any investor would have invested in Imperial Bank, Cindy. If you had money in your bank and you didn't know what to do with it, or you wanted to invest, wouldn't you have invested? You would have. Because they were posting profit for a long time. He has an important point. Okay. He has said that year in, year out, they continued getting fire awards. Is that true? For what? For? Please lift up your hand. We are discussing so that we can talk. Yes.
Beautiful fake accounts.
For beautiful fake accounts. So, they got fire awards on corporate governance, that they were governing the organization properly. That's number one. Number two, they also got awards in fire is about reporting. Remember, it's about reporting. And to their regulator, they performed well. They raised no concern. Okay? That's a story for another day. I can see many of you wanting to talk about, but we shall stop it right there. They did not. They raised no concern at all. But when push came to shove, what happened? You have the microphone, and it's okay. You are part of this group. Just say, what happened? The bank collapsed. So all along, who were they cheating? In the morning, I had a discussion, I can't remember with who, and I said, when we lie, we actually cheat only one person. Yourself. Yourself. Why? Because you truly are the only person who knows the facts, the truth, and nothing but the truth. And you truly are the person that's saying something contrary to what you know. So for a long time, they typed those accounts. Anytime I hear the central bank went for an audit or an inspection, they had whiter than snow accounts. But all along they had two systems. One that they showed the regulator in the world, and another one that they truly knew. But one day push came to shove, and they were shoved. And now we all got to know. So what was the point again? Was there a point, really, of cheating all along? Was there a point? Do you think there was a point? And that is a work of poor governance, corporate governance. You don't do it, it will catch up with you one day. But if you do an assessment well, had they called somebody and said, truly this is who we are, assess us and tell us, where are we doing well? Where could we improve? And where are we doing badly? and they were genuine, they wanted to reform, then that could have helped them. I said before that when you are assessing a corporate governance assessment, you must have, first of all, measure commitment to good corporate governance. Don't be hoodwinked by somebody who tells you the law requires me to do an assessment, please come and assess me. It's not about the law. It's about people genuinely committing to do good. If there's no commitment, it's as good as not done. You don't need to assess if you're not committed to change. It is like you going to the doctor and saying, Dr. Otieno or Kamau, whoever it is that is your doctor, please tell me how I am doing. And then the doctor tells you, Rose, you are underweight. Let me use underweight because I think that sounds better to me. You know, overweight is another, you are underweight and you need to eat some more. So I say, oh, I'm so underweight, Daktari, no, so what do you think I should eat? And the doctor gives you a list of things that you should eat. And then you go and put it in your drawer. Will that help me? It won't help me. Corporate governance is just as good. But those who get assessed and pay attention to the assessment, they improve performance operationally and financially. As was said in the introduction, I work for the IFC, and IFC is the investment arm of the World Bank. And so we invest a lot in companies. And my work here in the East African region is to gauge the corporate governance of companies before the IFC invests. My experience has been when I use our criteria, we have a 5-pointer criteria as the IFC. When I use it, often companies do not qualify. But you see, the IFC must invest. So what do we do? What am I required to do? Is to hold the hand of that company and help them in the areas that they are weak, they improve. In the areas they are doing well, to still keep running the goal. In the areas where they are medium, to enhance. That's my role. Because ultimately, the IFC needs to invest. We've got people's money, we've got our own money, and it needs to be invested. That is the work of governance assessment. So those people that I have assessed, and those people that have actually bought into the assessment, then they get, the investment comes in. So, and of course their financial performance is good. It helps you measure an organization's commitment to good corporate governance. A governance assessment will help you measure an organization's commitment to good corporate governance. The custodian of good governance is normally the body at the apex, at the very top. If a board steals, everybody in the organization will steal better than the board. The board is there once a quarter. Management is there every day. Of the banks that we've spoken to, some of the management became more agile in stealing. And they looked at accounts that were dormant. They said, oh, the board is doing this. And no board member should think that you do things, that they do things and management doesn't see. They see. Up to the Tigger, everybody knows. This is how our board behaves. And so management in that bank looked for accounts that were dormant, that owners had not been coming to check on, to withdraw money or to deposit. And your guess is as good as mine on what they did with those dormant accounts. And only God maybe, or another fall, will tell us what happened. So it measures an organization's commitment to good governance. And that you can only measure by measuring the board's commitment. If the board is committed, they will demand that management also is committed to good governance. If the board is on time, if they give proper strategic direction, if they set a good ethical practice in the company, then management will take a coup and they will copy and they will make sure that they do as the board requires. It helps identify opportunities to strengthen leadership and effectiveness. A governance assessment will tell you how excellent or how poorly the board and management are doing. So, for there to be strengthening of leadership effectiveness, the board members, the people at the top, must clearly understand their duties. What is the duty of the board? Yesterday, when I was interacting with the people being trained for corporate governance just next door, somebody gave us a very horrific story, how board members tried to force him to transfer some money from the company to another organization. And at the board meeting, they did not want the resolution written down, that the board resolved that we transfer X amount of money from the organization to X. But after they left, they then made like many calls. Each board member was calling that person, that individual, and telling him, hey, transfer that money. Hey, we are buying that property. And the person said, but that's not what I heard the board say. We didn't record it. We have a procedure and process in this organization on how to buy property. You have to have a resolution. We have to have a proper agreement signed, etc. And the board kept on telling him, no, you transfer first, you ingine itakuja. And so, luckily the chairman was traveling the following day, so he did his best to dilly-dally and evade the chairman, and so the chairman traveled. And when he came back the following week, he actually nearly sacked him. The person said, I stood on my ground. I said, I am happy to transfer the funds, but please could we, Mr. Chairman, follow the proper procedure. So, identifies opportunities to strengthen leadership effectiveness. So if the board knows its role, that its role is not to force management to transfer and to transact as they wish, that resolutions have to be properly documented. That's the only way the board can protect and defend itself if there were issues to be raised. Then that board is committed to good governance. Issues of structure in the organization are also measured in a good governance assessment. What is the structure of the organization? Who decides what? Do we have a delegation matrix? Do we have a CEO's limit on approvals? One of the issues that arose in Imperial Bank is that the CEO did not have a copy. And any board that is sensible, that has got a head above its shoulders, must know that they have to limit the powers of the CEO, the powers of management. So if anything is beyond a limited amount, then management has to come back to the board for the collective decision of whether to invest or divest, to pay or not to pay, to expand or not to expand, to take a particular risk, whatever it is that's put before them. So structure is very important. So in a governance assessment, structure of the organization is assessed. So who is who reports to who, and who is where? Who hires who? I have had boards that are very concerned about hiring a tigger or a cleaner in the office. That's not a board that's strategic. A strategic board has to stop somewhere. You hire the CEO and a few top members and give the management the opportunity also to hire the rest. Board behaviors. What are the board dynamics? Those are measured too in a governance assessment. How dynamic is the board? Do we have groupthink in such a board? Is it one person says something and everybody says yes? Do we have constructive debate and push and pull and tension and pulling here and there, and then finally agreeing on what the decision should be? How are the discussions made? Is every member given an opportunity to discuss? That is measured in a good governance assessment. And if every member is not given that opportunity, then that's not a good functioning board. there is an issue right there. Let everybody contribute. Is the board properly diversified? Or do we have board members only from one region? Are they all male? Or are they all female? Those are serious governance issues. And when you have a good mix of skill, good mix of gender, good mix of age, then you get a good decisions being made. Somebody raised an issue about CMC. I was part of the people that acted in the CMC case. And one of the issues they had was issues of age. People who are very senior. And there's nothing wrong with being senior. There is nothing absolutely wrong with being senior. We are all headed there, beginning with me. And I don't mind being senior. I think I have done a lot of things in my life. I will grow old, granted. But then if you have a board whose average age is 90, you have a problem. Because there are many, God has many other people in the world who can actually take up those board positions. And you also need, you remember the example I gave you with my daughter and the telephone? You can imagine if I didn't have her in the house. So my status would have read surgery, foot, the whole day without me even knowing. So it's important that they have me, an oldie. I don't think I'm old. They have me, a senior. Then we have the young ones. So if you are assessing a board, a good assessment should tell you, the people you have on your board need to be diversified. Men only. And I tell board members that please, if you're looking for a board member, don't look for somebody who looks, smells, talks, thinks like you. Because then what's the point of you cloning yourself 12 times in the board? If you are a golfer, you can only get friends from the golf place. If I am an advocate, I go and get all the advocates, or if I am a CS, all my board members are CSS. What's the point? All CSS look, smell, think, act, fear. They are like me. You see, why can't we get some accountants? We get some people from strategic planning. We get some people from wherever we can get, from academia, like Dr. Caesar here. Yeah, so a good assessment should tell you that your board is not optimally set. There needs to be a change, and there needs to be a balance. We are coming to an end. I will not make you dance again. In fact, I will simply go through this very quickly. And then it measures the relationships between competing tensions. A good governance assessment will measure relationships between competing tensions. And these tensions are good. Who are the tensions from? The tensions are from sponsors. What do sponsors or owners of companies want? What do they want? They want return. They want money. They will push you. If they put you there as a CEO, they will tell you, Mr. CEO, we want our turnover of how many? 25 million US dollars. They'll tell you that. And yet, their turnover has been 1,000 US dollars. But because they've taken you in as a new CEO, they will push you and push you to go over the bank, over the bridge, and they tell you, we want our productivity. But that's a good tension. It's a good aim, but it has to be put in perspective, because you cannot remove a $1,000 company to a 25 billion or million dollar company within the year. So a good governance will tell you that there are stages. At least set your targets well. There is the tension between the board and management. What is the relationship? Owners to the board, board to management. What's the tension there? Of the board mingling and meddling in the running of the organization. But a good governance will tell the board, this is your role. Please stay within this column. Management, this is your role. Stay within this column. And then owners, This is your role, stay within this column. So, the value proposition of a good governance assessment is great. If we assess ourselves personally, what value do I bring to an organization? How do I do it? When do I do it? What's expected of me? And then we move down to organizations and ask ourselves, what value is our organization giving to the society? Why were we created? How are we living our mission, our vision? How are we living the objectives in our memorandum and articles of association? If we do that, we will do well. I want us to do a quick exercise in our groups. A very quick one. I want us to develop a one-sentence proposition for government assessment, not corporate governance, governance assessment. What do you think we as CSS, we as governance assessors can sell in governance, on governance assessment? What is our product? What are we promising? What do we promise? What do we promise? So, the people right there at the top, please stand and discuss and come up with your one sentence. These people here at the center, please discuss and come up with your only one sentence, value proposition. Remember, I showed you what value propositions were at the beginning. The promise of Uber. It was what? Tap and get a ride. So what is the governance proposition for governance assessment? What is the value proposition for governance assessment? These people here and these people here, please stand and join here, this table, and get your discussion. Also a discussion right there, everyone there, and over there. These ones are rather few, but you can come up with yours. I think the fewer the better. So we have 5 minutes to do that. So please, let's move quickly. Now, I'm sure we've had nice discussions, and we also have had a refreshing moment. So let's see, who wants to go first? There's a hand right there, so we will go like this and finish here at the center. Tell us your value proposition for governance assessment.
Our tap is compliance all the way.
Compliance all the way. Excellent, excellent. Okay, no, please, you are moving me too fast. Why compliance all the way? What do I get if I comply?
None is creative.
Mm-hmm.
Want to do things right.
You want to do things right?
So performance, it's about the performance coming.
Yeah. Performance? Yeah.
So it's culture change.
Good culture change, compliance, performance, excellent. And people are very happy. And actually life is about happiness. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Next. There were several groups there, so that group and then this group.
Okay, the governance assessment will reflect a true assessment of the level of direction, control, and integrity of the organization.
Mm-hmm. Why? Explain that a little bit. So what do I get if your governance reflects all those things you've listed?
It will get to show you whether or not your management is being carried out sufficiently and it's compliant with the relevant laws and regulations.
Okay, so you've done well, you comply with all relevant laws and regulations, and you will be on a good path. Okay?
Yeah.
People at the top, do you have yours, or you are part of this team? Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. This team has got theirs. Yes, you.
Ours. We are here for you.
We are here for you.
Yes.
Yes. Why are you here for us? What do I get if you are here for me?
Compliance,
Transformation.
Efficiency and effectiveness.
Efficiency and effectiveness. So if you are running an organization, you tell them that, or you're going to an organization, you tell them that you are there, you will support them. Right, good tagline. Let's give them a round at the top, you're part of the discussion, and then we finish with the people at the center.
Yeah, and I want to caution that what we have said is the correct thing, the most correct and nothing but the correct thing. We think, deal and execute governance assessment effectively, efficiently and ethically. That's what we offer.
That is the value proposition.
Yes.
You think big and you execute. Say it again.
We think, deal and execute governance assessment effectively, efficiently and ethically.
Let's give them a hand. Thank you very much. Right, let's move here. Good. All right. Okay. You can see Joffrey.
I don't want to say anything, but ours is, we are just promising better performance the right way. In other words, we do governance audit, you will be able to get better performance and you will get it the right way.
Right way, yeah. So the value proposition to a company is that if you do a governance assessment, you will be able to get better performance and the right way.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Let's give them a hand clap. Very well done. Let's see the team at the top.
We don't want to be better, we don't want to be comparable, we don't want to do an excellent thing in our services.
Okay. So the value proposition for corporate governance then is that if you do a corporate governance assessment, it will help you commit to excellence. And true, it will. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Finally, our team at the center that finished very quickly. So I hope yours was not tap and go. Yes.
Yes. We have settled on a number of them. I don't know what you do when you go through a discussion and you haven't finished everything, because everything is good. We say this, governance assessment for sustainability. But there's another one. Assessment for sustainable prosperity.
So you had those two.
Those two, I think, is a summary.
Yeah.
They may not have agreed with everything because they did not finish the discussion.
Okay.
A contestation is still allowed, but that's it.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your first ones. They are both excellent propositions. The first one was governance
assessment for sustainability.
Governance assessment for sustainability. So it means that what you're promising somebody, because you're selling a product called governance assessment, what you're telling the person is that if you do a governance assessment, your business will be sustainable. Excellent. The next one?
Assessment for sustainable prosperity.
Assessment should be governance assessment for sustainable prosperity.
You prosper,
yes,
and then prosper continuously.
You are not cheating anyone that today you are having, your performance is this much, and then tomorrow if we all discover it was a lie after all. Yeah, sustainable prosperity. True. And to bring this to a close, there's another team over there. Sorry. Okay, please go right ahead. Give them this one that works.
Yeah, we're a small team of 4 people. We thought of achieving excellence through governance.
Achieving excellence through governance.
Yes.
Assessment.
Yes.
Right. So, very well. Why did you put that? Why was that? What was your reasoning behind that value proposition?
We need excellence, we need success. We're looking at our customers and saying, what do they want? They want to succeed in their business, they want excellence in their business. So we're trying to link governance and what they would want, which is success or excellence.
Thank you. And actually, we come to a close with such wonderful presentations from yourselves. And I am glad that everybody has actually had a good understanding of what governance assessment is all about and the value proposition. Why are we training and why are we talking about governance assessment? It is for sustainability, for improvement of our companies. And anybody who does a governance assessment and does it well and implements the recommendations that come up always has sustainable development. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'll be happy to take any questions or comments.